Welcome to the Bear Talk, your go-to Chicago Bears podcast, where a father and son talk all things Bears. From Soldier Field to Sunday showdowns, I'm your host, Dylan Weaver, and I'm joined here with my dad. How you doing, Dad?
Doing great, Dylan. How you doing? It's another week of Bears football, and you know what they say: when the Saints go marching in, when the Saints go marching in. It's been since '08 since we've had their number, but the Bears are gonna march them back home.
Yeah, no, it is definitely finally a game where the Bears are favored this year. There's been a couple that have went back and forth, but officially where the lines have closed at, I think this is the first time the Bears have actually been favored in a game this year. And this game is, as much as it looks like it should be an easy win, the Bears got to prove it. This could be a huge part of turning their page of previous coaching staffs, of, showing that they earn the right to be the favorite in these games. And these games where you're supposed to win, they can come out on the other side. I've seen a lot on social media this week calling this a trap game. I don't even think the Bears have earned the right to call a game a trap game yet. They need to prove that they can win consistently and beat these, bottom end of the league teams to prove that, they're on that next step before we go any further. But nonetheless, another great story week. You got the Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams kind of, tension that it comes to surprise to a lot of people out there, but it's really not that hard when you think about it. Spencer Rattler was a starting quarterback at Oklahoma. Caleb was a highly scouted freshman that came in and eventually took his job in that Red River rivalry game where he led probably one of the best college comebacks in the second half. But you don't see they would be friends after something like that. They play a competitive sport at a very high level. But it comes to surprise to a lot of people I've seen on social media this week, with both Caleb and Spencer saying they really don't talk. They just say they're cordial. Like, I don't know what fans expect. It's a little bit different, but then on top of that too, you also got the Dennis Allen connection.
Hmm.
Majority of his coaching career at the Saints, where he was the head coach and ultimately got fired last year, which is what brought him to the Bears this year. But a lot of different connections this week, as there usually is every week. You can always find some type of story between the coaches or players week to week, but it feels like another big one, especially coming off of last week, where I think it was the biggest one so far of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another little, little detail that people may not be aware of, or they may, but I find it interesting, especially, Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, and arguably that whole QB class is the beginning of the whole NIL college athlete. And while Caleb did come in and do a great game in that game where he eventually took over the job from Spencer Rattler, after that season, they both ended up going to, different schools, kind of changing the trajectory of each one of their careers, not only in the amateur level, but also at the pro level. So it's going to be an interesting game. The Bears do hold the lead in this head-to-head matchup, and only one of 10 teams that they have a winning record against. So it definitely is interesting, all the little storylines. And I think that's what makes football so great, right? Is, it's not just the game. There's all these little underlying storylines that if you're really paying attention to it, it's fun to watch and see how the turnout comes. And I think this week is going to be really, I've heard the trap game scenario be mentioned, but we're got a 3-game win streak going right now, and this game here, if they've prepared properly, the adjustments they've made after that, huge win in Washington, um, we got 4 games in a row, and I call that a trend in my world. And so you know what that means. 15-2 should still be alive by this afternoon once this game's said and done. But that's why we play the game. We'll find out exactly what happens. But really interested in watching this matchup unfold and see how the rivalry between Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams continues. But I think Caleb's got the upper hand.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, making sure they come prepared. That's one thing that I can say with confidence in the difference of having Ben Johnson. He's not gonna hold his head lightly to this team this week just because they're a 1-5 football team. He's not going to come in here and already be looking forward to the following week against the Ravens. It's all Saints this week. Doesn't matter what their record is. I think Ben Johnson even mentioned in his press conference this week, they have a 1-5 record, but they don't play on film like a 1-5 team. And the Saints have kept most of their games close, even against some very competitive opponents. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do have faith in Ben Johnson. It's not going to be, if the Bears do lose this game, it isn't going to be due to Ben Johnson. It's going to due to the players not executing at a high level. But Ben Johnson I'm sure the message was very clear all week not to overlook this game. Come in, handle business at home field. The Bears haven't been at Soldier Field now in 4 weeks, which is crazy. And then the next 2 games after this are away games as well. So this is a home game that you're having one home game in about 6 weeks. They got to take care of business. The fans should be fired up coming off that huge win off of Washington. And I feel like last week was a huge turning point for this Bears team and what we're used to and the difference it has been with Ben Johnson. So I think the fans are going to be fired up. It's going to be loud there at Soldier Field. Go out there, put on a show, take care of business, execute it. Hopefully, and I mean, hopefully we will get a clean victory where we're not, biting our nails like we have been the past 3 games of coming down to the wire. But let's just hop right into the injury report.
Before we do that, I got a
Yeah.
couple things I want to talk about because I know we've debated this before when we talk about stadium or no stadium. This is the game where the no stadium is going to work for the Bears. Saints, obviously, they play in a dome down there in New Orleans. Thankfully, the rain by game time should be subsiding, but that means that field is going to be soggy. If you look at the radar right now, it is just a hot mess out there.
Yeah.
But another factor coming into this whole game is going to be the wind. We talked about the Commanders game and the weather kind of last week and what was taking place there. They're going to have 21 to 30 mile per hour winds with gusts up to 40 on, roaring off of the lake. So that is going to play a factor in this game as well. So hopefully, when you get into this injury report, we hear some good news specifically about Swift. I might be able to see a little bit more of Monungai. But weather will be a factor in this game. I think it might be a sloppy one.
Yeah, I agree. The field definitely could be tore up. Now that we don't personally live in Chicago, I still got buddies up there, and they were talking. It was storming last night, and I did look last night too. It looks like around like 10 o'clock, right about right now when we're recording this thing, that the weather's supposed to clear up over there, at least rain-wise. But like you said, the field could be soggy. Who knows? Maybe they covered it up beforehand, but you never know. But definitely going to make sure to have on the right cleats, short cuts, short choppy feet, nothing long strided. Keep your feet underneath you. But it definitely could be a factor. And like you said, if the wind, depending on the wind off that lakefront, depending on how much it really gets in that stadium is pretty high up. So the lower stuff, it might not really affect it. But yeah, field goals could definitely be a factor again with that wind. But like I said, let's hop into this injury report. I'll start off first with the Saints. They don't have a single injury. Everyone's good to go. They had a couple of people on the injury report. Some notable people that were on the injury report. Elvin Kamara with an ankle injury. He's going to end up being good to go. Chris Olave had a hip injury early in the week. And Alante Taylor, one of their cornerbacks, also had an injury designation, but their whole team is good to go. They don't have anybody out. Let's hop more importantly into the Bears side of things. That's what us as Bears fans are really curious about. Probably the biggest one, Cairo Santos is out for a second consecutive week. He didn't practice a single day this week. So Jake Moody is going to get to continue his little story that he's got going on in Chicago, kind of restarting his career, giving him a new scenery. So definitely will be cool to see Moody in again and see how, he handles kicking at Chicago. A little interesting nugget too is a lot of kickers in the NFL, they consider Soldier Field being one of the tougher places to kick in, kind of like you were mentioning. When it gets colder in that lake, with that lakefront right there, a lot of, wind comes off of that lakefront right into the stadium. So a lot of kickers have Soldier Field pretty high up there on one of the hardest places to kick in. So we'll see how Jake Moody handles it. I will say last week, though, he did handle it really well in that Washington game because the wind was going in that game all throughout the game. And there was times you even saw him kick it into the wind so it would curve back almost into the field goal. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it at Soldier Field.
Yeah, can this be a game though that we're not relying on the kicker to win us the
Oh,
game?
no, I
We
agree.
we have to get to one of the games where the kicker is like an afterthought, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like Caleb told Tori, you won't be punting a lot, but obviously the the opposite has been true. I just want one game, and this should be that game where we're not talking about the kicker and double doinks. So Caleb prep up. Saw a lot of video of him this week prepping for the week, and this has got to be the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I said it earlier before in this episode about taking care of business. Let's not let it come down to the wire because realistically it shouldn't. But that doesn't mean Jake Moody's still not going to have kicks early in the game or as the game goes on where they're going to need to be made. We don't need every point matters, especially stacking it. But I agree. I'd love to see more touchdowns this week in the red zone than field goals. But the other injury, too, that is notable, Noah Sewell, obviously diagnosed with that concussion last week in the Commanders game. He was a full participant Friday, which was good to see, but they officially just have ruled him out, probably just to make sure he's ready to go for next week. And this isn't an injury designation, but Austin Booker is once again not going to be playing, which is kind of concerning to me because I'd love to see him in here. Our pass rush, we've talked about it enough. We're not really getting pressure as much as we would like on the quarterback. And I think Austin Booker, having his preseason that he did, it would be great to have him out there on the field and see what he can do. But this is now 2 weeks in a row where he's been off of IR. And I'm having a hard time seeing if it is a healthy scratch or if it's still due to injury. He's not on the injury report, so that's why I'm starting to think this was a healthy scratch this week. He was on the injury report. It does say questionable, but it might be more. It could be of a game time decision with Austin Booker, but he is not going to be playing once again, which is a little concerning. Like I said, Spencer Rattler definitely isn't a Jaden Daniels out there where he can break in and out of tackles, but Spencer Rattler is a mobile quarterback, and if you do not contain him and give him space, he can use his legs and be dangerous. So it's going to be very important to contain him, keep him in that pocket, and do not let him run free. But other than that, the injury's pretty light compared to what we were used to this season, which is good to see. Hopefully Noah Sewell will be good to go for next week too, because I love seeing that 3 linebacker front that we saw a lot last week, especially when it comes to stopping the run game. And we'll probably need Noah Sewell next week when we got Derrick Henry running through the middle of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's hop in. Let's hop into the defensive side of the ball, Dad. Talking about the defense, I kind of just said it right there. We're going to definitely need to contain Spencer Rattler. He's had, quite pretty, I would say for Saints fan, probably a pretty good season thus far, just with what they were expected. They did draft that quarterback, Tyler Schrow, in the draft, and he was expected to be their starter. And ultimately, I think what they saw in preseason and what they saw in practice obviously decided to go with Spencer Rattler to be their starting quarterback. But outside of that, I don't think their offense is too much to worry about. Obviously, I think the main part is containing Spencer Rattler. Do not let him get out of the pocket and make plays with his feet. When it comes to the running back, Alvin Kamara can definitely be dangerous when he gets to open space as well. You definitely got to account for him not only in the run game, but in the passing game as well. And then I would probably say the only other concern with them is Chris Olave. which Tyreek Stevenson should probably be matched up against him, depending if he continues to follow receivers throughout the game. But Chris Olave is another player who can make those big explosive plays if you're not keeping an eye on him. But other than that, I think this, like we said, they're the Saints. Their record definitely doesn't show how they play, but I think the biggest thing is just not having self-inflicted wounds. Take care of business, keep on your assignments, and limit the big plays as well.
Yeah, I think the other one we shouldn't forget about is Shaheed for the Saints. He's been an explosive wide receiver for him this year, and while the Saints' records doesn't reflect it, they've been in it with some of these games that they've had up some pretty big defenses out there. You look at the 49ers, Abdul Carter with the Giants, even the Patriots playing against them. So that offense is nothing to sleep on. And Spencer Rattler is mobile. We've seen him get wild and squirrely in the backfield before and come out for some scrambles. So it'll be interesting. But I was just trying to look for, and I thought I heard a little whisper of this late last night that the Bears had added another DN, but I can't find it on my report I was looking at.
No,
Um,
there was a DN that he's been on the team and we deactivate him to inactive. I don't want to. I have it right here. I don't want to butcher his name. It's like he's got Tana passing gone. The thing with him is he was on the Saints last year. Dennis Allen brought him over, but oh yeah, and actually we have released him. He's no longer on the team anymore. Which is why that it's really concerning that Austin Booker didn't get that spot because he's been on our active 53-man
mhm.
roster, and we just released him on Thursday of this week. So everyone thought that was a clear sign that Austin Booker was ready to go, but instead, Travis Homer, who was on IR with Booker, Travis Homer is the one that took his spot and is on the active roster, which is definitely an increase to the special teams for the Bears. He's been here for a while with multiple different coaching staffs. And one thing that remains true with him, he's just a good special teams player out there, does a lot for us on special teams. So hopefully to see him make an impact in his season debut for this season. But let's hop on to the Bears offensive side going up against this defense. This defense is one of the best. The Saints, as far as it goes, the Saints defense is one of the best and non-explosive plays. They don't give up many explosive plays. They keep everything in front of them. Obviously, you can drive the ball down the field on them, but they're not going to let you get it in one play. Which is a cool little chess match that we will see because the Bears are second in the league in explosive plays on offense, which is considered 20 yards or more. They're tied for second in the NFL for explosive plays, where the Saints are one of the teams. I think they're bottom five or top five in giving up the least explosive plays on defense. So I think it's going to have to be really strategic and methodical of taking what's open. And I think Caleb doesn't need to worry too much about trying to take a deep shot, especially on teams like this where they're not going to let you really have these deep plays develop. So it's kind of going to be, 10, 15 yards, take what's there and move the chains. Let your playmakers make the play after with the ball in their hands. But really, I don't know how many times we have to say it. I feel like we've been talking about it a lot, but we need to see Colston Loveland involved more. This guy is a guy you spent for a top 10 pick. It'd be one thing if it was second, third round pick, but the value we got him at, we do need to start seeing him more in this passing game. We saw him a little bit last week, that's for sure. He definitely had a big catch at the end of the game last week on 3rd and 5 to keep those chains moving on that game-winning drive. But I feel like we do need to see him a little bit more in this office. I kind of want to see a game where he's featured. I want to see 7, 8 catches, that 70, 80-yard range and a tutty.
I don't need to see him featured. I just need to see him outperform the guy we passed up to draft him, and that's Tyler Warren with the Colts. I mean, he's having a phenomenal rookie campaign down there in Indy, and there's a lot of criticism with Foles and his selection in the draft process or free agency, and here's another one that we we drafted high and passed up another tight end that everyone thought was going to be the number one over tight end, and we're looking like we dropped the bag again on another draft pick.
I was about to say though that this isn't a Ryan Poles hot seat. This is a Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson hot seat. This was definitely a Ben Johnson pick where he more specifically in these draft rooms, they rank players in their position group one, just like you would if you were
Yeah.
going to rate, a NFL team list 1 through 32. Ben Johnson definitely said, yeah, Colston Loveland's number one. I like him more than Tyler Warren. So,
Then use them.
I know, granted, on top of that, he has missed 2 weeks, but even the games he has been healthy, it's really not been anything, to be impressed with. It's just been normal catches. But like I said, I'm not worried about him matching production or trying to catch up to Tyler Warren's numbers. He's got a pretty good lead and it's probably going to continue that way. But I just want to see him involved more in this offense, more targets to him, more plays that are scripted to him. And part of that too is obviously Caleb's got to be looking for them as well in the passing game. But I want to see a little bit more scripted plays to them, specifically too with, last week we've seen it a couple times now where Colston Loveland's getting these tight end not Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet is getting these tight end screens. Colston Loveland should be that guy because he's the more agile runner, faster, quicker, shiftier.
Why we drafted him.
Yeah.
I wide receiver in a tight end's body, but I haven't seen him receive anything yet.
I don't want to see those little tight end screens going to Cole Kmet. I'd love to see that in our young rookie who is fast, he's agile, and he does run like a receiver in a tight end's body. So we do need to see him get the ball. But another thing I want to see with this offense too is I want to see that run game be just as consistent this week. I want to make sure, last week it wasn't, maybe obviously they executed it well, blocking well, but let's see it 2 weeks in a row. So, we know this run game is something we can rely on throughout the season and make sure, we have a balanced offense.
Which refs do we got for this game? Because I know we're playing the Saints, but are we playing against the refs too this week?
No, not the same reffing crew. I don't know exactly, but I haven't heard anything on Twitter from shout out Brad Biggs. He's the one that puts out that every week, but I haven't seen anything as far as something we need to be concerned about, which is a good sign. I don't ever want to deal with a scenario like that again. But nonetheless,
I only bring that up because we were talking about Colston Loveland, and he did have an opportunity there in that Commanders game with that flag for saying pass interference on the offense, which clearly there was no pass interference by Colston on that play.
Yeah.
That guy was dropping back in coverage, and they made it act like, I know Colston's a big guy, right? He's athletic and, plays that tight end role. But though, if you watch the tape over and over, that pass interference would literally mean to say that he did a Bruce Lee 1-inch punch and knocked that defensive back about, I don't think 5-6 yards, which was really just him dropping back in coverage because he thought the play was going the other way. It was a good play. So hopefully, I know I was ragging on Colston there a little bit, but let's see him get involved in the offense this week and score a touchdown.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And, specifically that play that you're talking about last week, I like that play too. That just the two inside receivers just ran deeper routes to clear through. And then here comes Colston on the back end on a slant. And he's got that bigger frame where he can kind of box out the DB that's on him. And it was a beautiful route. And of course, it gets taken off the board. But nonetheless, just want to see Colston Loveland more involved. Let's get him around 5-6 catches a game and keep that going. Let him see what he can do with the ball in his hands. And I think another playmaker too, the Bears definitely need to get him more involved in their offense. I know it's a hard receiver room to break, but Luther Burden has got to get in this offense more. I think I was reading a stat. His snap share is like in the high teens, which is not a lot. And right now he has the higher passer rating in the league when throwing the ball to in the NFL. I mean, granted, it's a very small sample size. He's had 12 targets, 11 catches. He's around like 150 something yards in the tutty, but he's averaging 13.7 yards a catch. We need to figure out ways to get this guy the ball in his hand And I think I've seen it quite a bit now, back to back weeks. Ben Johnson has run these little screens with him where it's kind of like that Amon-Ra St. Brown play that the Lions run. He catches the screen, and you got all the linemen flying down the field to block really quickly. And Luther Burden's done a good job of just turning it upfield, making plays happen. But what really stuck out to me with him when I watch him on film is that play last week where he caught that deep ball over the middle, and both the defenders are on Luther Burden immediately. He hits a cut to the inside of the field, gets like 7 yards, cuts back to the outside, and gets like another 15 yards off a play that looked like, right when he caught the ball, he should have been tackled. It's just this guy, if you give him any amount of space, he has all these quick cuts that can turn into big gains. And I just want to see him feature more in this offense, especially, just considering the type of playmaking ability he does have.
Yeah, speaking of Burden, you talk about that one touchdown, which came on that awesome flea flicker that we had, which probably the most explosive play we've had of the season, which it was super exciting to watch. Again, I know we've talked about it in a couple episodes now, but the Ben Johnson effect and how many times that flea flicker play now has been called in the NFL. I think we're working on a record in the 2025 season. And I just got to highlight, only because it's Aaron Rodgers, I think he was about to have a moment in that Steelers game with Warren and the alert, flea flicker play is off, and didn't understand his role in that offense and continued on with it and almost got Aaron Rodgers killed. But those eyes that Aaron Rodgers had after that, that was hilarious stuff. So I think if we're talking about Caleb Williams' progression and Ben Johnson's progression as a head coach, uh, based on just the flea flicker play alone, Caleb Williams ranks number one, since we're always about ranking where he stands and everything, because he's had the most successful flea flicker so far this season. Um, and so that's just another stat in Caleb and Ben Johnson's cap. And I think we continue on. There's got to be another trick play this week. I got a feeling we're going to see a big one this week. That is
Yeah,
something we haven't seen.
thinking about it now, last week they didn't mess around with any trick plays, probably to do with the weather, to be honest, because usually when trick plays, it does involve a lot of tossing, or the ball is leaving another player's hand that usually doesn't have the football. So it will be interesting to see what he does have up his sleeve this week. One of my favorite things to do on Saturdays when college football is around is, as I'm watching these games, you see trick plays in college almost every week, and you just start to sit there and think, oh, I might need to send this to Ben Johnson. Just maybe put it in his idea frame. But the trick plays are definitely fun to watch, and obviously when they're not successful, they're not as fun. But that's what you live and die by it. It's kind of the same thing with the fourth down calls where Ben Johnson is aggressive. They get it. We're all smiles, and he's the best coach ever. He doesn't get it. There's a moment where people are like, "What the hell are we doing?" But you got to live and die with that. And I'd rather have a guy be aggressive than be conservative. We've seen too many conservative coaches here in Chicago where, we have a comfortable lead and they're going to run the ball twice, pass on third down, make it about as obvious as it gets. But with Ben Johnson, it's always an element of surprise, even to us fans when watching the game. But I think we covered it pretty well, both offense and defensive side of the ball. We'll do our weekly tradition here where we give our score predictions, our offensive MVPs, and our defensive MVPs of who we think is going to shine in the game. I will kick it off to you first, as far as what you think is going to happen in this game.
Here's the first thing I think that's going to happen. You did not wear the same shirt you've worn for the last three games that the Bears have won.
Well, the
So
key, hold
you,
on. The,
oh,
the key,
no, no,
the
no.
key, the key for it is though to wear it during the game. I gotta make
Oh,
sure it's on during the game with my Bears hat. It's a little cold
yeah.
this morning in East Tennessee. The weather's finally starting to drop here, thank the Lord, because it's about to be November and it was 80 degrees outside. But it's during the game, and don't worry, I will have it on. But for right now, early morning, gotta have this sweatshirt on. It's a little cold out here this morning.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I will stick with the Bears are going to win this one. I think this is going to be the decisive win we've been looking for. While a win is a win, doesn't matter if you win by, 25-24, 2 weeks in a row, which is a rarity in history of NFL to have that score. But this one I do think is going to be 31-13 is my prediction on this. This is a Bears decisive win. I do think Colston and Luther are both going to have a game this week. Obviously DJ's dealing with a little bit of what he had last. That was just Monday night, so we're not even talking 7 days ago, where he was observed in the hospital or kept in the hospital overnight. So I think we're going to see Luther Burden have a great game and Colston Loveland, but ultimately it's going to be Caleb Williams distributing that ball around. And it's going to be a high scoring game for the Bears, not so much for the Saints. And we're looking at a Bears win, and we're going to make it, 4 in a row. It's going to be exciting.
So who is your offense MVP? Come on.
Can I just pick the whole offense will be my MVP because
No,
it's that game? Oh man. All right, I got to pick one. I'm going with Luther Burden will be my offensive player of the game.
And your defense MVP?
That one's a tough one, but I like the way the wind's going to be blowing, and it's going to play with that ball when it's up in the air when they're trying to play catch up because we're going to win 31-13. So I got to stick with my man, Tyreek Stevenson. He's been my guy every week, and he's my guy probably throughout the whole year. He's going to have a heck of a game. I smell a potential pick six in this one.
Yeah, no, he's definitely played, a very good bounce back season thus far, especially the first 2 games of the season were pretty rough, but he stacked up 3 good games on film now where he's been definitely filling in for the Jalen Johnson presence that is missing currently. When it comes to me, I'm going to keep it how I always do, keep the tradition alive. The Bears are going to lose this game. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Not going to say a score, but they're going to lose. Not really. But let's hop into the offensive side of my MVP. I do like your Luther Burden pick. I think we're going to keep seeing his production. We've seen it week in week. It keeps slowly getting his production level keeps getting up. You see him on the field a lot more. So I think it's just more about getting him to master that playbook and make sure he knows what he's doing out there before he gets very good limited snap share in this offense. But I'm going to run it back. I said it last week with Colston Loveland. I have a feeling I just feel like it's literally a ticking time bomb with him. It's going to be going off here any minute, and it has to be coming in one of these next couple of games. And I'm going to keep saying it till he is the MVP.
Like a broken clock, you're right twice a day.
Yeah. Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. But I'm going to go with Colston Loveland as the MVP. I do agree, like you said, I do think the Bears score a lot of points in this game. Feel like it's going to, Caleb's going to have a pretty good day against this Saints defense. And he definitely needs to as well. But for the defensive side of it, I'm going to go with a guy that has been really not flying under the radar, but I think a lot of Bears fans are underappreciating him. And that's Tremaine Edmunds. This guy has been the MVP of the defense throughout the season so far. If the season ended today, Tremaine Edmunds would be the MVP of this defense. Dennis Allen, another reason coaching matters. He switched all Chicago career. Tremaine's been the Mike and TJ's been the Will linebacker. During training camp, for whatever reason, he made them both play both the Mike and the Will to see what could happen out of both scenarios. He finally switched it going into last week. Now Tremaine is playing the Will and TJ Edwards is playing the Mike linebacker. And we are seeing Tremaine. We paid him a lot of money to come here. And not that he really wasn't living up to his standard of what we paid him and brought him in here from Buffalo, but he is now playing, I would say, above what we paid him so far this season. There was a stat out there that I did see. Shout out to the CHGO crew, but there was a stat out there. Tremaine Edmunds has never had in a 3-week span in his whole NFL career where he's had over 2-digit tackles, so 10 or plus tackles per game for 3 consecutive games in a row. And he's now done that for the first time in his career this year with the Bears. He's been the light of this defense. He's very reliable. He's getting to the football. Seeing him make plays and playing like this is amazing for Bears fans. You got to love it. I've always loved Tremaine. I loved him when he was on the Bills. just a very aggressive player. He has a huge frame for a linebacker. Gets his hands up in the passing game. He's a very hard linebacker to throw over. But my defensive MVP is going to be Tremaine Edmonds. I'm going to think he's going to continue the season he's on. He's putting together one of his best NFL seasons, which is you love to see that from a player like that who he came to Chicago. And I wouldn't say like I said, I don't think he's underperformed, but also don't think he's performed at the level he should be. But this year we're really seeing him overperform of really what we paid him. He's having I think he's second in the league right now in tackles, and the Bears have played one less game than a majority of the NFL teams due to that early bye. So Tremaine Edmonds is having a Pro Bowl type year so far, and I think it's flying under the radar for most Bears fans.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'd also like to point out too, I think this win that we have today, while it will be a high offensive point win and one that we really want to see, I think that Commanders game was crucial, setting up this game. We talk about the psychology of the sport and, how wins and losses play on the psyche of different teams. And we saw it last year when we kind of spiraled out of control after that Commanders game and the Hail Mary that took place. And so the same goes true this year. That game was weighing over their head from a year ago. They come back, play in the same stadium. They win it at the last second, and improve their record. And then now I think the opposite's true. When we went on that 10-game losing streak, I think we're going to see a 10-game run here. And it's going to be exciting in Chicago. I'm telling you what, Bears fans, get ready. It will be great. So can't wait to watch the game with you this afternoon. See how it all unfolds, and then obviously we'll have the post game afterwards to give you our thoughts on all the play that took place. But let us know in the comments if a live stream would be something you'd like to see, how we watch the game together, our reactions. I don't know if Dylan wants to expose himself to those emotions to everyone out there, but it definitely is fun to watch those games. So just give us a like, give us a comment, obviously give us a subscribe, but more importantly, I want to hear, do you want to watch a live with us? That would be some entertaining content for you to consume.
Yeah, no, it definitely would be entertaining doing some live content. I'd try to have to keep it PG-13 because when it gets in the game, there's some stuff that gets flown around that probably shouldn't be recorded. But nonetheless, it would be cool to see both of our reactions in live time. But like you said, that'll do it for this episode. Make sure like, comment, subscribe. All social media will be down in the description. We're seeing great numbers on our social media, so continue to go over there. Make sure to drop a follow, turn on the notifications, stay up to date with us throughout the week when we are posting on socials. You can see some great content out of us. We're very active on X throughout the week, giving our opinions on certain Bears topics that happen throughout the week that we ultimately usually end up talking about in these shows. But if you want to stay up to date on a daily basis, that's a good way you can do it. But for now, that will do it for this episode. We will catch you on the post-game show after the game. But for now, bear
Bear
down.
down.